So I'm hoping this is only going to be about maybe half an hour to go through, and then more up. The back half of the hour is up for questions and conversation. And I'm not sure. I think Carrie, you might have sat in on one of my sessions. Geez, that was several months ago, in kind of the old normal. But I've done a couple sessions with the Startup Zone on branding, marketing, and today is a bit more around customer discovery, customer focus, which it's nice to see a few others in the family talking about, and it's specifically linking to kind of acquiring new customers, but also retaining new customers, and it's a big topic of conversation that I really like talking about, is around retention, customer retention, because startups and just early stage, but also well-established companies are always talking about acquiring new customers. I need new customers, and they forget their current customers. And we've all had those experiences, be it, with the Bell Alliance of the world, the Rogers, the airlines. They're all about getting you to sign up. But after being a customer for 5 years, they just totally forget about you and don't do anything for you. And until you get the call, or they get the call from you saying, "I'm leaving," they go, "Oh, let me help you now." It's a horrible way of doing business. And I think part of it that we'll touch on today is, if they only talked to me and kept in contact with me, or all of us, it would be a bit more of a healthier relationship, and there wouldn't be a need for me to make that call and say I'm out. So just a quick refresher on who I am. I own co-own a boutique marketing shop. We're based in Halifax, called Dashboard Marketing, but we have clients all across Canada and some in the US. We have definitely some clients on the island. Holland College has been a long-standing client of ours. With Golf PI has been a client in the past, and then we're actually in a project right now with the Charlottetown Airport. So we definitely have some nice ties to the island, and we work in a variety of sectors: tech, IT, retail, higher ed. It's quite the gambit, and my career in the past has been quite colorful, I guess, because, as you can see by the gray hair, I've got a few years behind me, and have worked with ad agencies in Halifax, Toronto, and I've worked within companies like Nikon and Molson on the sales and marketing side. So it's a nice bit of experience to bring to the table for any situation. But a real passion of mine is the startup space. When I went live with my company, 13 years ago, I really had no idea what to do, and there weren't at all the resources there are now. So it's really nice to kind of give back, and be it with the Startup Zone, Volta, I'm a networking member there. The Ocean Supercluster, I'm getting involved with that. Seed, I'm a loans review committee member, and being connected to a few other things. So it's definitely an area that I enjoy contributing time and energy to. And I'm also now an advisor with the Accelerator program that's going on through the Startup Zone. And I'm also wearing pants. I just want to confirm that I am wearing pants. They are jeans, but to make sure there are no mistakes of that kind of presentation today, you won't see me in shorts or underwear. It is legit. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that I was wearing pants. So today's topic is kind of twofold. One is very much around customer discovery, and do you know your customers? And it's like a lot of things. This question should always be asked, because customers change, dynamics change, such as COVID-19 coming into the mix. So there's always a need to kind of ask the question and continually go back to your customers to find out more about them. And see how they're doing, checking in on them, making sure they're happy, or if they aren't, what can we do to help? The other piece is taking that knowledge and turning it into actionable efforts that will support the marketing funnel, which some of you might have seen. So how do we engage them, convert them, and keep them? So this knowledge that we're going to acquire on customers, what does it do to make sure they're aware of who we are? When they're aware of us, do they consider us, and do they truly convert? And then on the bottom part of the funnel is, now that they are customers, are they loyal? Are they buying your product, or are they advocates? Do they come up a notch and truly spread the word and sell your product without you having to do it. So today it's very much about these two factors of that funnel of acquisition, top of funnel, and then retention with the bottom part of that funnel. So I always like starting these sessions up. It's, to kind of put people's frame of mind in the right place and we have to call it now old and new normal, because I was even on a call yesterday and somebody said, well, we're going to get back to normal. As I think we all now know, there's no back to normal. The way things will be done are going to be different than how they've been done. There's still things to consider that are the same as before COVID-19 and this pandemic world that we're in, but there's now new normals going forward. One old normal that will carry forward into the new normal is that and I can't stand when people say this, is like, well, everybody's my customer. Sorry, but that's bullshit. If everybody's your customer, nobody's your customer. And Seth Godin, says it well: if everyone is not your customer, and I truly believe and always talk to my clients saying you cannot be everything to everybody. And I often find it hard in the startup space that you're into this moving, pivoting, kind of unsettled environment. It's like, well, I can see a customer segment over there, or I can see a customer segment, and yes, there's some great opportunities, but you need to kind of stop and say, okay, let's really think about this. And this is where that discovery comes in. Okay, who is that ideal customer, top tier, second tier, and down? So there really needs to be an exercise you go through to focus and find that customer. We all have choices. We're all consumers. We all engage in brands and companies. We all have choices, and there's also a lot of competition. And I, again, cringe when I hear the phrase, oh, I don't have any competition, or no, there's nobody like us. Again, bullshit. There is always somebody out there. There's always a share of mind and somebody creeping into that. And there is always a choice out there, be it just not doing something, or, I know in looking at the accelerator a group, there was a gentleman talking about, his app and offering kind of a solution to a group of people that use spreadsheets or clipboards. Well, that's still a solution, right? Even though they might not be wanting to make that technical move, there's still that solution and that choice that they make. I'm not sure if you remember the video that went viral on the left-hand side of these two little kids running and embracing because they hadn't seen each other in a while. The challenge now is that's not our normal. We can't do that right now. So even though there's a shift from this intimate, physical touch connection that people used to have, and some now do, it's still people to people. So even though they're 6 feet apart and we're wearing masks, we're still in an environment where it's people connecting to other people. So that's one of the biggest things, again, I talk to companies about, is like, you are still people trying to do business with other people. It doesn't matter if you're a B2C, B2B, D2C, whatever it might be, it's still people to people. And then, I always like talking about this and touched on this already around clarity and focus, because a lot of companies don't have it. They haven't got there yet, or they're trying to find themselves. But if you're clear on who you are and what the product is, and your understanding of the customer, and you're focused on your efforts, things will happen, because the last thing you want to have is a confused customer not knowing what your product is or how it helps them. They're disoriented on, oh, okay, are you this or you that? Like, you don't want that situation. And this was an interesting study, just to wrap up kind of the overarching situation we're in. It was a study done by McKinsey back in April. So things have definitely changed. But it was an international view of COVID-19 and people's feelings around optimism and in that link to spending. And I found it really interesting to see where Canada fit in back in April, in our feeling of very low optimism, and how we were definitely holding the wallet purse to our heart and saying we are not spending. And again, I think that's evolving, that's changing. Now things have loosened up, but this idea in Canada, at least, of just uncertainty and fear and just uncomfortableness really does affect spending. So it's something as a business, any business, to consider. what's interesting also, you look at some of the other countries on this map and you look at Belgium and Portugal, Portugal being a country that was definitely hit hard, how their optimism is still low, but they're open to spending. And then you see some of the other ones that have definitely moved up. But it's an interesting dynamic to look at the link between optimism and that happy place and am I going to be spending in this kind of new normal? So, easy question to ask, and I think I know the answer. Who wants to get and keep more customers? I've kind of broken this out into four areas of discussion, I guess. The first one is about keeping them talking, and when I say keeping them talking, customers are already talking about you. They're already saying things about you in a good way. They're saying things in not so good way. They're sharing, as we probably all have seen, posts and comments online. So it's more about now getting into that conversation and learning about and collecting what they're saying, be it just watching them from afar or actually talking to them to say, tell me more. Why were you unhappy? Or why were you happy? What product improvements can I make? What service delivery changes can I make? So, the conversation's already there, and it's making sure that you're involved and getting some knowledge out of it. When you do that discovery, there's a great opportunity to go deep. And when I talk about deep, I'm talking about squishy, emotional, pull it from the gut, pull it from the heart, and get their feelings and get the sense of what they're thinking, what they're hearing out there, what they're hearing, not so much what you think they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they need, what their gains are, what their pains are. And really go kind of emotional and go deep to say, and because what I want to say and do, are they truly, is the end benefit of your product the ability to get approval or support from their boss and make them look good? Well, that's a valuable insight into who they are. So really in this customer discovery piece, be it sales, marketing, product development, distribution, whatever it might be, asking these questions of your customers will kind of offer up that knowledge and insight, and especially if you can go as deep as you can. There's no shortage of ways of engaging customers. SurveyMonkey is great. I just did a survey for a client just recently, and it was, we sent it to 250 people. We got 50 people replying. The numbers aren't huge, but hey, the insight that they gained from that was incredibly valuable. And even the questions around their recommendation level was 98%. It's like, wow, we knew we were doing a good job, but now we know the actual number we can report and say. I think this came up in a webinar I was listening to, maybe from Pat, a few weeks ago, talking about kind of the engagement on the phone. We're all almost in need of a conversation, and it's now to the point of no Zoom calls, just call me. And even, Pat and also Patrick, we've just chatted recently on the phone, and it was almost refreshing to have a phone call just to catch up and chat. So making calls to your customers is definitely a huge opportunity these days. A lot of universities and colleges are doing this now because they need to engage potential students because they're not getting the on-campus visits. They're not meeting them at high schools. They have to engage them in some way. And then, of course, like this, Zoom calls. You can conduct these customer discovery sessions through a variety of tools that are out there. You also have a lot of insight already for companies that have analytics on their website, Facebook pages with analytics. If you've got a CRM system, like there's a lot of good data already available for you to look at to see, okay, if you go to analytics, what pages are people visiting? How much time is spent on that page? Are they converting if you've got certain goals and conversions set up? Are they doing what you want them to do? But not looking at it from a performance or sales metric standpoint. It's more about, let me try to understand them better. And there's definitely demographic details and data in analytics, but let's go a little deeper with the Facebook or social stats. What are they engaging with? What content do they like? What do they not like? What's being shared? What's not shared? This is all great information that you have access to already. So, while doing new interviews and discovery is definitely an area of opportunity, there's a lot of information already existing in your environment that you can kind of dig into. And then once you collect all this information, some of you have probably seen this format or other formats like it, is to put it in what they call a buyer persona. And there's a difference between an audience segment and a buyer persona. The audience segment is a very general reference of this is, we're doing something for actually a pest services business. And there's a home residential customer, there's a multi-unit residential customer, those are segments. This is personal. This is Tamara, who's 45, a planning director. There's very personal elements to this individual that you've now garnered and pulled out. And they're talking about their motivations, their goals, frustrations they have. And this is very general information about who they are and personal information. And it gives you a personal perspective. And often segments, within a segment, you might have 6 personas because you come across different customers, and they can be definitely made up, but they of course need to be supported by the information you're garnering and pulling from those discovery sessions. And again, these buyer personas, they're great for marketing, they're great for product development, they're great for sales. There's a variety of different benefits of putting this data, this information into place and having a true personal perspective of who your customers are. So that was kind of the first bucket. The second one is I always love talking about keeping it real, because we all know bullshit when it's bullshit. So in this instance, when you're doing discovery, it's really important here is to listen. And some of us, sometimes me included, it happens with my wife. She's got an issue. She's talking to me about it. I'm trying to solve the problem and deal with it. It's like, no, just shut up and listen. And that's the opportunity here, is to truly just listen to somebody or a group of people and hear what they're saying. And you might not like what they're saying, but it's customer insight that is valuable for a variety of things. This one is especially relevant now, is and this quote, empathy is the highest form of intelligence. Is compassion and empathy is so important in this right now during this pandemic period. It's amazing over the last few weeks of other webinars and sessions I've sat in on like this, that's the consistent topic, is show compassion, empathy, and really recognize, based on the consumer insights and discovery you're doing, what they need you to do. Be it, we have a health services client, and it's all about telling the families that their loved ones are safe. And the CEO is doing, almost weekly, almost daily videos of saying we're COVID free, we're taking care of your family. He's very compassionate, very empathetic, he's very personal, and it's really putting that forward to say, in that instance, the biggest issue I know of the families is, are my family members safe and cared for? Yes, they are. We're handling things the way you would want us to. Emotional connections, and I know in this day and age, again, this is a bit tough, but there's still that opportunity, that emotional connection to reinforce or establish. And again, Seth Godin always got these great quotes of, people do not buy goods and services, they buy relations, stories, and magic. And I love that statement of the relations, stories, and magic. It's, again, back to the squishy piece. It's the emotional side of things. So even though you might be offering what you feel is a functional product or service, whatever it might be, there is an emotional reason deep down for making that contact and making that connection, and for them to do business with you. And I do a lot of work in branding, but I won't go too deep. But the big point here is, if you look at the two sides of things here, of the brand promise that you're making, and hopefully you're putting forward a brand promise that you pulled out of customer discovery, and then on the flip side, the brand experience that the customer is getting, they are hopefully aligned, and in that middle is that authentic experience. So whatever that promise is, it's checking back however long, and just continually check back to say, is this truly an authentic brand promise based on the experience they're having with my business? So that's a big one, because people, again, they know bullshit when it's bullshit. So make sure it's authentic and real. Third area here is keeping them happy. And this is now to the point of, you've discovered this great information and knowledge about the customer. You've got them as now a customer. How are you keeping them happy? And it's so important, because this is a great stat here of supporting customer appreciation. There's a lot of data out there, and this brings it to light, that it's 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to retain one. So if you think of the cost that all of these companies, be it large, medium, or small, are putting out there to acquire a new customer, and they've got a bunch of existing customers over here, and they're not spending any time and energy on them, they're losing this huge opportunity, and they're spending a whack load of money out there. It is just from this, it is cheaper to keep a current customer and keep them happy versus getting a new one. It's simple, and it's just something that a lot of folks kind of forget or just don't realize that they need to put that emphasis, and there is a monetary benefit to it. This is a system or approach or kind of a an approach that a lot of companies have put in place, and it's not new, but it's something often when I talk about this, it seems to be new to a lot of folks, but it's looking at customer success versus just simply offering customer support. And it's a great system. A lot of software as a service companies have implemented this. They've set up customer success departments, and they've really committed a lot of time, and there's a smooth transition from sales to customer success. And you can see the comparison when you look at the comparison here between customer success and customer support with current customers. The customer success side, you're proactively monitoring customer health and behavior. That means you have to initiate contact. You're talking to them along this pathway in this relationship. You're actively managing the life cycle, and it's not just here's one transaction and we'll never see you again. It's a life cycle, and you're constantly adding value throughout that life cycle. There's strategic initiatives coming out of this, and it's about product adoption, product innovation, advocacy, which is the ultimate goal here, and it's seen as a growth driver in companies. When you look at just simple customer support that we've all had and made contact with, where it's an ad hoc response, it's firefighting, it's I've got a problem, solve it. It's not proactive in any way. It's focused on resolving product issues instead of kind of that personal connection, that long-term ongoing life cycle. It's short-term tasks, immediate requests, and often in organizations, it's seen as a cost center. It's not a growth driver. So implementing this success mindset, I've talked to universities and colleges about this. I've talked to other businesses that have never even really thought about this approach. And sometimes they're already doing it, but it's like, oh, this is an actual formal way of doing things to keep customers happy and to get more business from them. On top of that is do more than customers expect. So now you've got this great information about them. You've kind of acquired them. You're trying to kind of manage their expectations. Go that little step beyond. And there's a lot of talk, and you search surprise and delight marketing. There's a lot of ideas. Loyalty programs support this. There's a lot of kind of pieces to bring forward, but it can often be just the little things. It can be a little gift to say thanks for the business. It can be we're just adding this onto your account without you asking for it. It can just be these little things that add a little extra and go beyond the expectations, because we all have certain expectations, and if you meet them, great. But as we can all appreciate, if you exceed my expectations, you'll be like, wow, my gosh, I didn't expect that. I'm surprised by that. I just had that extra little, special connection now to the company that I'm dealing with. And I'd say one of the best and things I always talk about is saying thank you. I was on a call with Pat just yesterday about, he often talks about ask for the business. My big thing here is say thank you for the business. So you've got the business. It might be a year anniversary note saying thank you for being with us for a year. It might be something that's 10 years out, and you're thanking them for the business. And it's like Jim Shuksky is sending a note to Xander saying, just thanks for giving us a chance to work on your car. It's a handwritten note sent to him, might have included a gift card to say thank you very much. And it really is a little thing, but how many times do we get handwritten notes saying thank you? And from companies we're spending money with. It's a small thing, but it has such a big impact around the idea of surprising and delighting these customers, because we're all human beings. We all like this kind of appreciation. We're spending money with companies. So if you're saying thank you, wow, okay, that's nice, a nice way of appreciating my business. And the last kind of area and bucket to kind of touch on here is just keep it up, because When we look at now, we've talked about this great exercise of discovering and defining who your customers are, getting the customers, keeping them happy. This is a never-ending cycle, and marketing never ever should end. And it's sometimes like our current situation, you have to scale back marketing budgets, you have to shift funds from certain areas to others. It really should never end, because you can see the experience never ends. When you talk about customer success, it's a life cycle. It's a never-ending cycle that you want to keep going. So there's activity, messaging, marketing activity in that pre-purchase stage, that purchase stage, as well as post-purchase. So you look at on the screen how many things are happening or potentially happening to kind of market and engage people. So it never ends. So you need to kind of keep up this piece and keep up that customer discovery and the idea of keeping those customers happy. Within this, one of a good exercise to go through is, back earlier I talked about the persona building. Now that you've got that understanding of that customer, what's the process? What's the journey they go through? So based on that marketing funnel, the knowledge you have of your customers, what are you doing? What are they experiencing or feeling at that awareness stage, consideration, and so on? And so what activities do they do? Watch advertisements, go online, whatever those might be. That comes out of the discovery. Motivations, those came up in that persona building template. The emotions, what are they feeling? What are they liking, not liking? And what are the barriers? What's happening that's preventing them? So it's an actual journey map that you would put together to say, this persona goes through these stages and experiences this. This persona goes through this map, and so on. And then that's where those marketing pieces or sales pieces come in to kind of really hit them at the right time with the right message in the right medium. A lot of you have probably put this together already, your value propositions. The statement here is, there's a kind of a set format, but make sure you're developing value propositions for each one of those customer personas. Because I just did this exact exercise for another client, and we had 3 different personas, and actually, sorry, 4 personas, and each of the value propositions was very different. They had a variety of services. We had to customize the service based on the need or the pain or the gain that they were looking for. So it's a very detailed exercise to go through, because you want to say the right thing to the right people and hit on that little trigger that's going to say, yeah, I want to do business with you, or I want to keep doing business with you. And then here, it was a good reference here on the Shopify blog where it talks about, when do we introduce kind of the acquisition or the retention piece along that kind of acquisition side of it. And this is very much based on sales. So when do I start emphasizing and putting in place that retention strategy? So making sure you have both an acquisition strategy and a retention in place, because at one point in the middle of there, you get 1 sale per day. Well, 30% of my time and my efforts should be focused on retention. You go all the way to 10 plus sales per day. Well, geez, retention is outweighing acquisition. So making sure that both of those strategies are in place, and that you have a mindset towards both of them as you progress and ebb and flow in your business. And then lastly, we always speak to this KPIs, key performance indicators, be it site conversions, sales, requests for quotes, whatever that might be. Those KPIs, they're going to tell the true story. So did you find out all that you needed regarding those customers? Did you put them in place in that top of funnel? Did you get them as customers? Are you keeping them as customers? Are they recycling and renewing, or whatever that might be of that full life cycle churning over? And the data, the things you're tracking are going to tell you if indeed this is working, and or if it isn't, do I need to revisit the efforts, or do I have to revisit what I think I know about the customers, or do I need to do new research to really deep dive on this certain topic or issue that might be really preventing success? So that's it. That's I kind of hit my half an hour mark just to touch on this, but just to wrap up kind of what I've touched on already. The first area we talked about was keep them talking. As I said, they're already talking about you, so how can you gain that knowledge and pull that insight and information from them? So conducting customer discovery, and not just once, continually do it. And then put a true definition of who those customers are, and evolve that as you get more knowledge along the way. keep it real. It's, again, especially in this, current pandemic, COVID-19 environment, compassion, empathy, and authenticity is one of the biggest things I think a lot of companies, need to keep top of mind, because I think it'll definitely carry forward when we get into a new normal and things open up. This will still be significant in going forward. Keep them happy. Again, at the start of the session, I talked about it. I think there's so many companies and organizations that forget the retention piece. It's great to get customers. It's great to, see the numbers and see the sales. But if you're not doing anything, if you don't have that success mindset or model in place, and you're not surprising and delighting and simply thanking them, you're not going to have them for very long. So what is that retention strategy, and what are you doing to keep them as happy customers? And then lastly is keep it up, because marketing should never end. Mapping out what stages they're going through, what your customers are experiencing and feeling, making sure your messaging is accurate based on that funnel, and you're dealing with each of those points along the way. You've got the strategies of both acquisition and retention, and you're tracking everything. It's great to do all this effort, even if the acquisition piece, the retention piece, but if you're not tracking success, you just don't know if you're successful. So that's it. That's I mentioned at the start about half an hour, and I'm hoping that there's some questions, and if not, we can carry on with this beautiful day. But I do hope there are some questions from the group.
If anyone has a question that they want to send into the chat too, we can do it that way. We don't have any in there yet, but
I have a million questions. Therefore, I don't have one question.
What do you feel is the biggest question?
Well, I'm just going to comment that I just feel like, oh my goodness, this all just resonates with where I'm at right now. All of these things are exactly the things that occupy my mind all day, every day. And I just don't know where to start to do any of those things. Like I think that I get the concept, and I appreciate the objective of all of these things, but I don't know how, what exactly do I do? So well, anyway, I'm just kind of lost in that.
I'm assuming you've done some sort of customer discovery. You've got clients right now, do you?
No. So what's happening with me is I'm actually doing a pivot. So I'm actually just kind of redesigning. I've got a new site, a new product launch, I guess, if you'll call it. I'm pivoting to adapt to offer virtual home office ergonomic assessments.
Okay.
So I'm kind of starting from scratch, basically.
Yep.
I'm literally today just working on my website, and just basically starting from scratch. And I have no idea how to get myself out there.
You've had some customers, right? Maybe not with this exact business, but you've done sort of the process with other clients, kind of, right?
I don't know if I would say that I have.
Well, then I'd say that'd be the first thing is you could do a simple Survey Monkey, put it out through your social channels around, we're all working from home. Are you happy with your current home situation? What issues are you finding? And just ask a couple key questions there. And it's really, with doing research or discovery, it's kind of either answering what you think with data and their input, or discovering something very new and enlightening. So it's kind of like, that's why with some of those questions, it's good to have multiple choice, but also open-ended questions to say, okay, what is the single biggest issue I'm having with working from home?
So I guess I guess I have done that, haven't I, folks?
Okay.
Because I guess I'm thinking, so as you're talking, I'm thinking from the perspective of trying to land organizations who want to provide this for their staff who are working from home. I did
Gotcha,
have the
okay.
opportunity to work on a little bit of a project where I did it for some individuals, and I did do a survey, and I did get some very helpful feedback. So I guess we could say I've done that kind of from the individual who's working from home, from their perspective. But the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about the trying to
Corporate
connect
side.
with organizations.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there, I guess I would instantly think of, okay, who are the HR consultants? Who are the HR people in the organization to, possibly reach out to through LinkedIn just to say, look, not selling you anything. I would just welcome your feedback. I'd love to gain some knowledge on is this something that's of interest? Can you speak to some issues you're dealing with? Is your company looking at this? So asking certain questions, and it's back to the idea of listening, not selling, to say, I just would love to hear your input on these things and see what kind of information you can garner, even if you can jump on a call with them, because those would be more of that qualitative research to say, look, you're an HR professional, you're putting these recommendations forward, you've got a number of people to look at. I have 5 questions for you. Do you have 15 minutes to talk to me and see? Because then what you'll get from them will allow you to be able to market and sell, because you'll know what triggers, what messages, what things you kind of need to hit on, be it on your website, on the follow-up email to say, thank you, by the way, here's the beta version, or here's a free trial, or whatever that might be. So it's that soft sell, but the first objective is getting the knowledge from them.
Right. Okay, well, thanks. But yeah, everything you're saying just really resonates with me. So I'm going to sign up for everything that you
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Jordan from Maple Bloom Farm. I've been running the online farmers market, Eat Local PEI, and we've had a lot of interest since we started in like mid-March when the farmers market closed, like the Charlottetown farmers market closed.
Yeah.
And we've got quite a lot of people signed up for a mailing list, and we hit our peak about 4 weeks ago, but we've seen like a steady decline by about 20 or 30 orders every week since then. And I guess in the first month, 6 weeks, there was always something like fresh and new to promote. And there was like, hey, our first pickup here was great. Our first pickup here was great. We're offering deliveries, new products. But now we're kind of at this point of stasis, and the re-engagement with customers who have ordered in previous weeks is getting more and more difficult as the next shiny object comes into play, like the new market opening online or grocery stores coming back up. I guess my question is, how do we stay relevant? Because this is going to be our main business model for the months coming ahead. How do we stay relevant, and how can we, like, how would you ask the question to a customer? Hey, what can we do to be better and like serve you better?
Well, I guess to answer it in a different way, the people that are scaling back on their orders, do you have a sense of what they were ordering or not ordering? Are you able to kind of look at it from that perspective to say that, the 20% that have scaled back, they have scaled back on their meats or their vegetables, or they, that kind of knowledge? Do you have that kind of perspective of their buying behavior?
Well, it's actually not that their order sizes have decreased. That's stayed the same. It's just that the amount of orders we're receiving has decreased by half in the last 4 weeks. So we're getting like 100 orders instead of 200, for instance.
Right.
What would be the statistic you would look for in that case, if anything?
Yeah, I guess it's also because, like you said, they're now either being more efficient with what they're consuming.
Mm-hmm.
They're shopping somewhere else, and
Yep.
it couldn't like, if they're, for those that are scaling back their orders, it couldn't hurt just sending them an email saying, we really appreciate your business. Is there something, we're looking to expand our product lineup or our offering. We welcome your input. Like, treat them almost as VIPs to say, we're evolving the business. Is there something specific that you would want us to add to our mix? And just kind of collect some information from that to kind of understand maybe where they're, first of all, where they're shopping or where they're spending their money elsewhere. And maybe also ask the question around, is there something more that we can do to help you? Other services, be it more frequent deliveries or whatever. I'm not sure exactly the model, but maybe asking other questions to see how, other questions related to increasing the frequency.
Okay,
Jordan,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Jordan, it's Carrie. I was a one-time buyer and I haven't done it again. And so you're welcome to contact me and I'd be happy to chat with you.
That'd be great.
Because you might find that they might have held back their ordering for a reason you may not have even thought of. It might be, if it's an online booking system, there might be not a great experience there. The delivery date or pickup date might not fit with their schedule. Like it could be a variety of things. So really, I guess in that regards, think a bit, try to think broadly in the questions or the topics that you might want to touch on when you reach out to them. But again, reaching out to them, just that effort to say, I really appreciate your business. Please shop with us. We're trying to evolve the business, stay fresh, innovate. What more can we do for you? And then drill into some of those specific topics.
Yeah, and perhaps if it's not too blunt, if I do send a survey, I could just be like what other sources do you currently shop for local food, and what are you getting from them that you're not getting from us? If that's not too forward.
No, it's again, that's the funny thing with customer discovery. Like we're all consumers, and if we like something, we're willing to give input. If we don't like something, we're definitely looking to give input. So to say, look, we value your business. We want to improve ours. We welcome your input, and asking those kind of questions is, again, the survey I just recently did, we asked them, did you get a quote from somebody else? If so, who? So they're very open in giving that kind of information.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Doesn't
Are there
look like
any
there's any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Karen.
Are there any resources, Marketing for Dummies, anywhere that you might direct me as kind of a go-to place for resources to help me sort some of this stuff out?
Well, I know that like with the startup zone, that there's specialists like myself that you can tap into. And the great thing is there's a few of us in the sense of the marketing, sales, brand space that you definitely have direct access to. There is, and through this presentation, you'll be able to share. There's a number of links to other kind of thought leaders in other environments. HubSpot is always a great resource for a variety of marketing content.
Ooh, say that again.
HubSpot.
Okay.
The Shopify one, again, e-com. There's no shortage of content. It's more about being kind of, I guess, specific on the question or the need that you have, and drilling in it that way. But I'd first off say start with the family, the Startup Zone family. Like there's other startups that are in the same situation that you are in, and those coffee chats are great, and accessing other specialists like myself. I'd go there first. I'm just reading a note from Kathleen here saying, every time I do a round of marketing emails, approximately 4 emails per month, there's a drop in subscribers. I'm sure that this is a normal behavior, but is there anything we may be able to do to decrease the number of subscribers lost? I'm assuming you're looking at content in that email, because first thing I'd look at is, okay, what's being clicked on, and what's not being clicked on. If depending on that that kind of click engagement, and then the follow through to the content on the site or wherever you're sending them. That would give me a perspective. Okay, what content are they interested in, and what are they not? Because I think when people start unsubscribing, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's just we're getting probably overwhelmed by so many things you sign up for, and just the daily bombardment. But also, if people are not engaging in the content in the emails, it might say that, well, the information that I'm providing them may not be of value to me. And this goes back to the customer discovery. If you're able to do just a outreach to customers and ask them what kind of information they want to know about or be exposed to or engage with, because you can list, say, the things you provided in that email, but then highlight a number of other things or open it up for their input. And you might be surprised that they say, well, I want to know about this, and this. And then you never included that kind of information or content in the email itself. But I'd start off with kind of the those performance metrics of click through, and then if they've clicked through to something, have they spent a lot of time engaging with that content on the site or wherever it is they've gone, and those bits of information that have never been clicked, well, they're kind of seeing that and just not seeing value or reason to engage further with it. Hopefully that answered your question. Any other questions? It's like I just did such a great job, eh? Yeah.
Sean, yeah, I was going to mention something, just something we hear a lot coming through the zone. I think Carrie kind of mentioned it a little bit. When people are starting out, they just have so many things to do. And so, there's something, I'm not sure exactly, I like to call it the dagger. You have that one thing that you focus on. You mentioned some things today about it. But yeah, I guess, do you have sort of any tips on, choosing that dagger or that direction?
Well, the biggest thing, and I'm going to pull this out of, one area that I do a lot of work in, and I know others have spoken to in Lunch and Learns, is it does go back to brand. It really does go back to who you are, and you can only define who you are based on the knowledge you have of those current or potential customers. So making sure, back to the clarity and focus, that you are very clear on who you are, what you're offering, who you're offering it to, and make sure there's that relevant, authentic connection, and that your messages on brand and all of that is tight. Because if you've got that, then your efforts in acquisition, and then when you get customers, to keep them as customers, will just be that little bit more, I wouldn't say easy, but it'll just be a more seamless, more relevant kind of approach you're going to take. But I've seen this in so many businesses, and it doesn't matter if it's startup to well-established 20-year-old businesses. They lose track of who they are. They don't know who their customers are anymore, or they think they do, but they haven't talked to them in a long time, and they're introducing services that they find out really aren't relevant, and they've never done that research. So it really goes, the first thing is that customer understanding piece and that link to the brand. It's back to the slide of brand promise, brand experience. There's, making sure there's that true overlap for those two circles, and that is an authentic, relevant, fine-tuned, focused message. That, right, I'd say, Patrick, is the first real big thing. Because then from that point, you can build out all these other things. You can go and implement acquisition efforts. You can, get your sales team out in the field saying the same thing to the right people. Like, that's all of that comes into play when you actually go out and implement things in the market.
Right. So it's like laser focused, sort of, keep it simple. We see people so often get so complicated and want to add that other thing and talk about that other. And it's like just the one thing that you're going to do really well, how you're going to do it. Yep. Yeah.
And I think simplicity is great, but I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's clarity and focus. Like, if you have clarity on who you are, who your customers are, and you have a focus on their need, what they want, and you've developed a service or product or offering that is solely in tune with them, then everything else, you know, again, doesn't come easy, but it just comes a lot more seamless and connected.
Nice, yeah. And it kind of, I know you had mentioned this with when you're chatting with Jordan around the correlation of like the drop-offs and things like that. And, you know, if people are dropping off, there's usually some cause behind it. So if you can get that clarity behind why that is, or with Kathleen and the dropping subscribers. I mean, we've had a really, at the Zone, it's been tough, like sending out blast emails to people, not as effective anymore. You've got to do a personal reach out and have a conversation.
It's funny you say that, because that was why, you know, the phone call of picking up the phone and talking to people. The other thing is revisit, say, more old school or traditional means of engagement. We've done this for a couple clients. We use direct mail. It is now a very effective tool, and it was for years. It lost its interest and fell off. You know, there's a cost definitely to it because of printing and then distributing through, say, Canada Post or whatever it might be. But we're all at home. We're at home way more than we used to be. And, you know, people are more engaged in their mail. So if you can send them a simple piece of information, maybe with a special offer, with a custom phone number, you know, you could, that's the way to track the performance of that type of piece. But it's again, revisiting things and understanding, okay, people are at home. What can I do now to engage them? And we're all on screens. We're all on Zoom calls. We're all, like, people are now turning off and stepping away from email and stepping away from social media. No, I'm not saying 100%, but they're tuning out. And so what other mediums can we do to engage them through?
I love it.
And now, interesting, because this was the exact conversation when I talk about direct mail. It's more mail being delivered to you. This company we were talking about, they had produced door knockers, which people may know that they're little kind of long things you hang on a doorknob. They were concerned about, they produced them before COVID-19. We were talking about this, you know, delivery of something to the home. The concern there is now cleanliness, safety, somebody walking up, hanging it on your doorknob versus a mail courier that's taking safety precautions and putting the mail in your mailbox. There was an interesting conversation. So it's, again, because of our dynamic, how do we revisit what we had no issues doing before, but now have to modify in this kind of new world?
Interesting.
I have a follow-up about the mailers.
Yeah.
So we were looking into that as an option because, like, I've never done it myself, but I worked for a volunteer organization where they like contacted people through mailers, and they were able to get like a mailing list from Canada Post that was geographically close. I guess that's something I could just search on the website, but do you know how that process works, and if you're able to go any more in depth about the demographics of who you're reaching through that mail?
You can. It's Canada Post is very good at saying they can. There's some limitations because they can get into some data, but not as much as you might want. You know, they can definitely do single-family dwellings, apartments, multi-unit buildings, but to go a lot more granular, again, it'd be worth it. It can't hurt in any way to reach out to Canada Post, because they would be a good one to start with, or search online, because they do have a lot of good information on their website about the targeting that they can provide. And we, with other clients, we've done some resemblance of targeting, but it's still limited because they only know so much about people living in those homes.
Okay, yeah, and when I
can target and make sure that you're doing a postal drop that is to residential customers only versus you know, commercial buildings, apartment or larger office buildings, that kind of thing. So you can get that kind of targeting. It's just then to the point of is this a family of just a couple, or is this a family with 5 kids? It's tough to go that depth.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. I might, because I think like if I send out to one in every person in Charlottetown, not only would that cost like $5,000, but I couldn't supply that many, but I could do like 200 a week, week over week for many weeks.
Yeah, and the key thing there is to change up the offer. Make sure there's an offer in the piece you send, because if somebody calls you or sends you a note online to say, I want this veggie box or whatever it might be, or I want to take advantage of this special, you'll know that it's linked to that direct mail piece. And then if you send something else that's a different offer, you can track that. You can also do it by postal codes. Like you can do this postal code this week, this postal code another week, and see what kind of redemption rate you get from those. Quick Copy actually in Charlottetown does a lot of, I've used them specifically for doing a mail drop. So they work quite well with Canada Post. Once you have the targeting set and the actual listing, they'll give you an Excel spreadsheet that you can send to the printer. So once you make the connection, it can be an easy process.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. One thing, our software isn't really all that powerful. I'm using like another company's software while our own team is working on a solution, but it doesn't have anything that can like be a code to give someone a discount. I wish we had that, but I could use postal codes to get a rough idea of the traction I'm getting with the mailer. So
yeah, and it could be as simple as just a different offer. So it could be, take advantage of 10% off this product this week only, and then, in 2 weeks later, it's a different product with this different discount. So you can start tracking things that way. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Looks like we've hit the hour mark. So my email is up on the screen. I'm definitely available through Slack or other environments through Startup Zone. So if there's any other questions for anybody, happy to kind of follow up, or if you guys want to take advantage of kind of the specialists list, I'm on that list. So happy to stay connected or help anybody out if need be. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
John.
Thanks, John.